I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's week one. Welcome to the first Manny Diaz weekly press conference of the 2021 season. The 14th ranked Hurricanes will play top ranked Alabama and Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game Saturday. Kickoff is 3:30 p.m. on ABC. We will start with an opening statement from Coach Diaz, and then we will open it up for questions. Coach?
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
Well, I missed that old voice. Thank you, Carter. It's good to see everybody, even if it's virtually. We're delighted the game week is here. Our guys have put in a lot of hard work since we came back after the bowl game, and it's upon us. Obviously, we have a great opponent that we've got a ton of respect for. But our guys are excited to get on that stage. We're delighted to be a part of one of the showcase games in college football here on week one. And now what's left this week for us is to really polish some game plan stuff we implemented a week ago and be ready to be at our best Saturday at 3:30, because for sure that's what it's going to take to defeat Alabama.
Yeah. No pressure on my end, but we're not dropping your ticket. So you just.
Woo. All right. Off the top rope.
Thanks, Coach. We'll open it up for questions, and we'll start with Gary Furman.
Hey, Manny, how are you? I had two questions. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time watching Alabama tape, probably more than one season. And when you evaluate it, how far away do you feel that the Miami program is right now in relation to the program that's been at the pinnacle of college football for this long? And then my other question would be that the offseason's coming to a close. You've made moves to improve the staff. You've picked up some key pieces in the transfer portal again. As you go into the season now, are you starting to have a better feeling that it might all be coming together for you?
I guess I'll start with your second question first. I think we're improved. Which is the point. I felt like this time last year we were improved from where we were in 2019. And you mentioned just the additions of the people we've brought into our program, whether it's players, staff. I think we've been a better version of Miami in the 3 years that this program's been around. We still have the next 3 or 4 months to prove that out on the field. But I think our guys are ready to show everybody, I think, that the type of team that we have. But in relation to your first question, I mean, that's very difficult to answer, because we're going to play those guys on Saturday, and all we have to do on Saturday is find a way to be 1 point better than they are. This is not a 162 game season, or we don't get to play a best out of 7. So it'd be weird to make some sort of comparison to say where we are in relation to them when we haven't played them yet. What they have done is they've accomplished a lot of things that have not been accomplished in historic levels in college football. I mean, that's just where it's been. Similar to a run that happened here, similar to a run that I was a part of at Florida State. So, that's why they have our respect. But as we know, this is a new year. There's new personnel on both sides, and we only play one game. It's college football. It's the ultimate small sample size sport, and so we'll be there Saturday at 3:30.
Thanks. Good luck.
Next, we'll go to Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, a couple housekeeping items. Number one, are there any guys either through injury or suspension that you can tell us won't be playing for sure in the opener? And then the second part is, obviously, I know you guys addressed this with an email, but Avante Williams, to speak on, what it was maybe that you guys were able to see that allowed you to take him back, or made the decision to take him back. And then, what, as far as benchmarks or when he could potentially return to the field, you can give us some clarity with that.
Yeah, from an injury standpoint, we basically have 3 long-term guys, for the year. That's going to be John Campbell, Thomas Davis, and Brian Balaam. Will all be long-term guys that will be out. The short-term guys that will be without this weekend, Sam Brooks, just still not quite ready yet with the toe. Just needs a little more time there. We feel like we have a shot at him here in the upcoming weeks, and same thing with Dom Mammarelli, just coming off of where he was in spring ball. Other than that, we feel like we should have everybody else ready to go. In terms of the Avante situation, I think we just, obviously the situation changed with the way that the case was handled. Those decisions are certainly not made by one individual. You know, there's a lot of communication with the administration at the university level, administration at the athletics department level. And really what it became our focus is, what can we best do for Avante going forward? And that's really what this is, what we've put in a plan about. You mentioned the benchmarks. There are a lot of things we want this to be educational to be able to affect Avante down the road, more so than anything we can teach on a football field, you know. And so some of the things in terms of the mentorship, the educational opportunities, some of the groups that he's going to participate in, you know, and he's got to meet those benchmarks to get back up to play. Avante won't play for us for the first 6 games of the season. And to be quite honest, it'd be hard to expect. Avante hasn't practiced or run or done anything physically. He won't even practice. He's going to work with our strength and conditioning staff here for the next 2 weeks to get him. It'd be unfair to dump him right in the middle of a practice. The guy did miss a training camp. We can't take that. You know, we have to take that into account. But our goal is to make the best Avante Williams we possibly can. And that's why again, we gave him the avenue back. There are some things that we want him to be able to accomplish that we think will help him. And again, by helping him, that ultimately helps us as a football program.
Next, we'll go to Tim Reynolds from the AP. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Hi, Manny. Good to see you.
Tim, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. I feel like somebody asked this question in some form every week, going into every week 1. You could be playing Alabama, you could be playing, you know, North Country Community College. It wouldn't matter. It's still week 1. It's still a huge deal. Are there things you have to sort of put in to caution against it becoming a bigger deal than it even needs to be? Like, are there things you do to try to rein the enthusiasm back just a little bit, if necessary, in an opening week?
Well, I think what we've talked about is just making sure that we can be the best version of ourselves. I mean, that's really been the one of the major themes of our offseason going back to January and February. You know, let's just get us right on that stage. The emotion and the enthusiasm, I mean, just going back into a full stadium is going to be, you know, very emotional, and it's going to be very hard to kind of, you know, lock in, because it's going to, I imagine both teams are going to, I think anybody in that stadium on Saturday is going to feel a little something when the teams come running out of the tunnel compared to where we were a year ago. But ultimately, opening games, if you watch any of the week 0 games this past weekend, special teams, you know, kickers and returners, you know, just a little bit different, playing full speed with, you know, some decision making back there, and ball security. You know, quarterbacks have not been hit in training camp. You know, I mean, runners have been hit some, but we're limited in how much, you know, and I'm talking on both sides, how much you can tackle, and the team that's going to protect the football. I know this sounds like coaching cliche, but it's still true, and it's certainly true in openers. You know, and then just tackling. You know, they you know, tackling Alabama's people, they have big, large people that you have to tackle, and even if you watch their spring game, their defenders who had a hard time tackling some of their backs. I mean, you've got to be in the mood to run your feet on contact and wrap up and put people to the ground. So those are, I mean, to me, so I think it's more focused on what usually wins openers. Again, whether you are playing, you know, your NCCC team that you brought up or whoever, I think the recipe usually is the same for playing your best in a season opener.
I played soccer at NCCC, so I can rip them. They don't have a football team. So thanks, Manny.
Next up, we'll go to David Lake. David, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just want to ask you about linebacker. You know, on the depth chart, looks like Corey Flagg, Keontre Smith, and Amari Carter, kind of your starters at that level. Just curious what you saw during camp that has you optimistic about what they showed, and maybe how do they also complement each other on the field?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we're noticeably faster than we were a year ago. I think one of the things I you know, like most coaches, get wary when you put the depth chart out, because we have an old experienced team. There's a lot of guys that are going to play in the game. And a lot of the older guys, in our estimation, are better versions of themselves than they were a year ago. But I think what you saw with K4 at will is just a speed element, whether it's in coverage, chasing plays down, things that may stay open don't stay open very long. You just cover a lot of space. It's just physics. Flag, same thing, just speed of thought and short area quickness that he brings. I still think Jennings and Steve made big steps forward. That those two competitions were very close. And same thing at striker. I mean, Gilbert Frierson still was a very consistent player for us a year ago. Still provides a lot of value for us. And Amari Carter is, as I've been mentioning all during training camp, is going to have to play some safety for us as well. So, like I said, somebody who appears to be on the 2 line this year. When the game starts, there are going to be 11 guys out there, and then we expect to play a bunch of guys on defense this year. And they don't say whether you're a 1 or a 2 when you're in there. So like I said, I feel good about the guys that we have, and I feel good about our depth as well.
Next, we'll go to Gabby Uratia. Gabby, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Not really an Alabama question. I know that there's recently just been like reports about helping schools get back to that 85 spot in terms of just like total scholarship numbers and all that stuff. I know you've touched on it in the past. Just like just kind of your overall thoughts on the potential of having more recruiting spots this year, or just like the idea that the NCAA might allow schools to get back to that 85 number, at some point.
Get back. So you're talking about initials. Getting initials.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 trains pulling in opposite directions, because you have the idea of being able to replace initials, but you also have the idea of, most of us are over the 85 this year.
Yeah.
And we don't know how many are going to leave the program. And, so most people, no one can really say with any certainty how many players they can sign in this class right now as it is. So, as we're all kind of feeling our way through the dark. I think somehow, some way, there's going to be some relief for the initials, but I don't know how hot that is on the agenda right now. So you kind of have to plan as if it doesn't happen, and if it does happen, I think it's easier to adjust that way, because if you try the other way, you could end up with a big time number problem.
Yep.
Next, we'll go to Kobe Price from the Sun Sentinel. Kobe, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, I wanted to follow up on a couple of questions that Manny asked earlier. Are there any guys going to be out this Saturday against Alabama because of suspension, not injury, but specifically suspension? And also with the Avante situation, I guess was wondering, what was the rationale behind dismissing him in the first place rather than keeping him, I guess, on suspension, seeing how, I guess, there was the possibility, I guess, that this could have happened back when the dismissal happened at first?
I just think that there are university policies and the way things were laid out and the initial information that came in. I always say you make the best decision at the time, given the information that you have at the time you have to make it. And so I think talking to the leaders at the university, I think if we had a chance to go through the whole thing again, I think we would have done the exact same thing again, because at the end of the day, we're still back at where we are now. So whether it's suspension or dismissal, now we're just talking about semantics. But again, given the information we had initially, we felt we made the proper decision. Given the change of information, we felt we had a chance to update, what we thought about the situation and explore an avenue going forward.
Next up, we'll go to Chris Stock. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, you said you feel like everybody else is ready to go, specifically Zion Nelson. Just how's he doing? You've always been pretty confident with him. And then also we see Ja'Kai Clark on the depth chart. Is he going to be ready to play, essentially?
Yeah, Ja'Kai's working his way back, which is good to have him, see him out there taking reps, getting back in the mix, and same thing with Zion. So yeah, I mean, Zion's ready to go. And, we feel good about our depth at O-line and our ability to, again, that 2 deep, there are certain guys that can feature at different spots along the way. And, we feel good about our first 5, and we feel good about our depth this year as well.
Next, we'll go to Susan Miller-Degnan from the Herald. Susan, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, how are you?
Good, Susan, how are you?
Good. The quarterback situation. I see the oar between the backup quarterbacks. How close were the 2 of those guys in fall camp? What differences did you discern, and especially in the scrimmages, because we don't get to see any of those. What was the big difference, and why is there an oar?
I guess if there was a big difference, there wouldn't be an or, right? I think that's the point. I think both guys have played very well. I think both guys have shown up in scrimmages. We want the competition to continue throughout the season. And again, I just want to stress the depth chart that gets put out today is a depth chart. What we tell our players, it's a 1 week mission, right? To win a football game on Saturday. Different guys that aren't on the depth chart or in different places, they may be in a different place by mission 4 or mission 7 or whatever we're on. So, but with those two in particular, we want, Coach Lashley wants to coach those guys hard all year. He wants them both to prepare as if they're both a play away from getting into the game. And that gives us the right to, hey, let's go watch them through a game week. Last week was our first kind of introduction to a game week of here's the game plan and understand this, and the safety does that. This means this coverage and so on and so forth. And now let's see how they do up to the scouting report test on Friday. And this gives us, the evaluation never ends.
Well, also, Manny, I noticed that Mark Pope isn't on the depth chart. Anything? How is he doing? I should ask.
Same thing. As I mentioned, we decided we just put out a 2 deep. There's a lot of ways that Mark can help our football team. And as I mentioned, this is week 1 versus Alabama. There are a ton of names at a bunch of spots, including wide receiver, other than Mark, who I think will have significant roles this year. This is week 1, the batting order to line up to play Alabama.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. Manny, how have your day-to-day duties changed? What are you doing differently because of the added defensive coordinator? How much time do you spend doing things for that part of your job that you hadn't? And a related question is, when you're preparing for an Alabama offense, does it matter who the quarterback is?
Does it matter who the quarterback is?
Yes. Do you just prepare for an offense, and do they kind of plug in the quarterback kind of do the same year to year?
Well, it certainly matters who the quarterback is. Obviously they've had a run of really, really special guys. Watching Mac Jones a year ago is like watching a conductor conduct a hell of an orchestra. They were really, really impressive. And I don't think and my vote needs to be said on that. And obviously, with Bryce Young, they've got a special young quarterback, number 1 guy in the country, quick release, strong arm, really good mobility, a little bit different element than they had a year ago with the quarterback's legs. And so it is quite a challenge for us. So, and obviously he's going to complete every pass he turns and just hands the ball off to running back. That's going to be a completion for him. So that we've got to make sure that we try to improve the way we played in the run game that we did a year ago. In terms of, my responsibilities during the week, as I kind of mentioned beforehand, there wasn't a whole lot of difference in the time that I spent inside the building with the defensive staff. I think the differences more are during meetings and on the field of the actual coaching of the team on the field are the biggest differences, but it's not in my day-to-day schedule, it's not a dramatic departure from my involvement a year ago.
Thank you.
We got time for 2 more. We'll go to Cal Friedman. Cal, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. 2 questions just to ask about the defensive side of the ball. In the initial depth chart, you got Jafari Harvey starting at defensive end over DeAndre Johnson. I wanted to ask what improvements Jafari's made this offseason.
Well, Jafari's gotten a lot bigger and stronger, which I think gives him a little bit different physical element to his game that he didn't have a year ago. DeAndre's been, we lost him for some time in the spring. He was out for some time here during training camp. So I think Jafari just had a little bit more opportunity of just reps to maybe improve. Again, I don't know that you'll see a ginormous difference in the snap count between those 2 guys during the course of the game. Same thing with Chance Williams on the other side. I think Chance has made a big jump during training camp as well. But Jafari has established himself. He's always had great quickness and get off. And can bend and turn a corner on a tackle. I think he feels stronger. You can just see it in the confidence that he plays with from the offseason he had with Coach Feely.
And then on Amari Carter, you've got him moving down from safety to striker this year. How confident are you that he can make that transition for Saturday?
Well, that's why we put him there. Amari's toughness. I mean, everybody's seen that in ample evidence, in his entire career here. His physicality is something we felt like we needed to increase in our front seven. We knew we had, 3 very experienced safeties, and so it was just a way to showcase his versatility. So I think we were very confident. I think Amari looked very natural at it when we put him there in the spring. He's done nothing in training camp to suggest that that's not, a great place for him. But as I mentioned, Frierson still has a huge role because, Carter will be wearing both hats, at a necessity for us as well. So just excited to have guys that have versatility, and there'll be some others in our defense too that can help us in more than one place.
Thank you, Coach.
And we'll wrap up with Ryan Hennessy. Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, Ryan Hennessy, NBC 13 in Birmingham. Obviously, how do you kind of adjust to a team that lost so many offensive starters in Alabama? It seems like they are still high recruits, but new names, if you will, this year.
Well, like you say, I mean, the jersey numbers may change and the names on the back may change, but, you're certainly getting the top of the top recruiting classes in the country. Talent won't be an issue. They will just be guys that for the most part haven't done it a lot in games, but that's why they were recruited there to do it. No different than some of the guys we have replacing some of the players that left us a year ago. So, as well, that they have a system there that's been in place. There have been names that have changed over, over the past few years, and the next guys have come in and performed at a very high level, and I'm sure that their expectation is to do the exact same thing with a little drop off this year.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Coach. We'll see you later on this week.
Thank you all.